And she said, yes, you need to put a lot of effort there, but your heart, the family heart, has to be in there. Now, it doesn't have to be some kind of fluffy romantic things. There are some very hard points behind this. And so I try to summarize these points that I would like to share with you, what it means to put hard work. Well, first of all, it means build real bonding. Okay? When Benedetta says it's luck, when she mentioned we have been raised like that, I think that behind the appearance of we just are like that, I think that their family has reached a high emotional maturity. Okay? The fact that you can talk about how you feel, the thing that you can disagree, the thing that you're open, that means a lot, and that doesn't come easily in many families. Many families, and this is not to say there are good and bad families, but there are different levels of maturity in the emotional state of the family. In many cases, disagreeing with the family is being a rebellion. So you're raised with the idea that you have to agree. And if you say that you don't agree with something, you are against the family, you're a threat. So you kind of learn that it's better if you just shut up. And this, in the long term, doesn't help this unity. It's fake cohesion, if you can really say what you think. And the real bonding is when you're able to not only say what you do, but also how you feel. There are different levels of intimacy in relationships. There are relationships where you are allowed to share your opinion and thoughts, and there are relationships where you are able and capable to share your feelings. And among these feelings, even fears, and even when you're uncomfortable about what other people is doing to you. And that's the hardest part of the relationship. So being able to disagree in that respect or to communicate, it's very important. I know your family probably a little bit better than yours, Benedetta, but something that really impressed me, and also listening to you, is that you leave your kids being free to choose what they want for their own career. And so this idea of train their kids appreciating diversity. There is no harmony if there is no diversity, okay? The idea that we are all the same so we can get along, not true. But it's much harder to deal with diversity, because then you have to put this diversity together and you have to align this diversity, and requires much more time. So let them be what they are, leverage on the uniqueness they have. Yes, it's much more work, but it's much more rich at the end of the day. Third point is also leveraging on what you asked before, how can you avoid envy? Well, there is a way to assure envy in your family, which is raising kids with the idea of competition. Many times in family business, they try to put competition between the kids, so they want to see who's the best for the position. That kills the unity in the family. The idea of sustaining the picture you show was really great. Teach them since the very beginning that it's not about an issue of being the best, it's an issue of being great together. And so you don't have to be the star there, you have to keep them together and move on. That's the best way to be in the long term successful. I love this picture, and I think that it's not easy to be free to discuss and question the authority, okay? Leadership is very important, but being able to set an environment where people is free to ask questions, even the less comfortable, the harder one, but not being afraid that you upset people. The issue of respect, tolerance, very important, but let people being able to disagree in the family, that helps a lot in building this long-term harmony. You mentioned about trust, and I was kind of challenging, because trust is a very delicate issue. You can't trust, you can have a relationship if you can trust, but sometimes we think about trust as a one block, while there are two major components in trust, and you mentioned that. You can trust people that have integrity, so you know they don't have any hidden agenda. You know that what they say is what they mean, and they have good intent. And that's a good very important part of trust. But you can trust people who have a very high integrity, but they don't have results, if they are not competent. So that's why not necessarily you can trust people in your family, not because they're bad people, but maybe because they don't have the skills to talk about business. And I think this is very important because I've seen so many families where trust is an issue, and they can get out of there, but it's mainly a matter of educating people on skills, competence, and that it's much easier to build trust in that way. Families where the trust is not linked to results, but it's linked to integrity, that's a much harder situation to fix. But I think it's very important to keep in mind and say, can I trust him or her, yes or no, and why? And same thing is, can they trust me? How do I look like in their eyes? Am I a trustworthy person because I'm good? Am I a trustworthy person because I'm capable? And when you talk about learning trust, I think that's very much related to this. You were mentioning the importance of the role of the leader and being clear on the expectation. I saw so much confusion in families when there is a lack of clarity. Big challenge for family business is this dual role. At the same time, you're the CEO of the company and you're the father, who is talking in some moments. Very important is to let people know what they have, what are the expectations as a child, as a member of this family, but also in the role and the position they have in their responsibilities in the company. And again, being able to talk, communication is really the key, the most important thing, and being able to even address the hardest part. Lack of clarity leaves room to perception and assumptions that kills any relationship. Human beings, they tend to make negative assumptions. When you don't know something, how many times you think, oh, they did that in the best interest for me and the family, right? It might be that you have this kind of devil saying, well, maybe he or she wanted this or that. So that's why being on the same page, I love the words you chose, Sajjan, about alignment is very important. Fairness is a very tough topic in family business. Why? Well, because when you talk about being fair in the family, it means that everybody is the same, right? But then when it comes to being fair in the company, it's not true that everybody is the same. It's more an issue of being of merit. Who is good for doing what? You want to protect the business, as you mentioned before. So probably a good way to meet in the mid is being fair in the process. Make sure that everybody is heard. Make sure that everybody is told. Make sure that you have communicated with people so they know where they're going, and they feel they have been heard. And so if I have to sum up everything with one last thing, as I mentioned before, these are soft issues, right? And so people tend not to think about that and take them as they come. And it's hard to put that in place. So the people I work with, they came up with a kind of formula, which I think and find pretty interesting. So we measure healthy, and HR stands for harmonious relationship. And everything lay on communication, okay? But it's not just a matter of blah, blah, blah. It's a matter of measuring good communication. And there are three components that makes a communication a really good one. It's a matter of time, and it's a matter of how often do you talk and for how long. And I think that these recall the idea that Benedetta was mentioning about it's a willingness issue, okay? You want to make time. We don't have time, okay? We're busy, everything is rushing, but over here in Milano, we are always, and in Singapore as well. So maybe even more. Even more. The point is make time, find time. How often, it depends, but if you really want to have a harmonious relationship, you need to be able to talk. And then the last point is depth of the communication. How many times I meet with families and I ask how things are going, and they say, awesome. Well, how is your father? Well, I think fine. What do you mean with I think fine? Well, last time I talked to him was 2 months ago. Interesting. That's not exactly what I mean with a healthy relationship. But then when I ask them, how are things? And they say, oh, we talk every time. And I ask them some deeper question. They're kind of, well, I don't know. Why? Because the level of communication is on facts. If not sports and politics is probably business too, which is quite important, but it's not what allow you to be harmonious and build this strong relationship. Families who are harmonious are those who are able to talk about those topics that in general other families are not happy to talk about. And so the depth of this communication is a kind of cartina tornasole of
I don't know, you are the American.
No, not yet. Of what it says about relationships. So if I may leave you with something easy to remember about all the discussion we had is find the time, okay? Spend time to communicate and learn how to talk about these things, because now the hardest thing is to start from talking about facts and jumping into talking about emotions, which is, has to be handled with care. I really hope that this can ring some bells in your mind and can be useful for you to take home and to think a little bit more. And I really want to thank both Benedetta and Sajan for all the shared thoughts and ideas. And I thank you for being here and for being very confidential, to treat with the highest confidentiality the information that we shared today, because it's quite important. Thank you.
Thank you.